Well, not much has changed in the sense of our preparation. Anytime you win or lose, you're always going to look at what you did well, you're going to look at what you didn't do well. And it's all about making sure that you absorb it and you make your corrections. And at the same time, you have a better understanding. And I think that's where improvement comes from games. And practices are a big part of making sure that not only are you learning from the film and applying it, but are you continuing to work on what you're good at. And it's a constant balancing act of making sure that you're improving and at the same time never getting away from what your strengths are. And so eventually, hopefully by the end of the year, you don't have a whole lot of weaknesses. We had some weaknesses the other night. And at the same time, we had a lot of strengths in that game. And obviously, there's no question that we didn't do the job on the backboards. And they were averaging 48 shots in the last 5 games. They got 63. They were making 17 shots. They made 27. So anytime you give up 10 or 15 on extra shots in a game, you're not going to win the game. And we were still within seconds, or relatively within seconds, somewhere in there, of being able to come back and get it. But we gave them too many possessions, bottom line. We gave them too many possessions. We didn't take advantage of some of the ones that we had. But we did do some really good things. And I think anytime you lose and you take it as hard as these guys take it, you have to keep reminding them why you're in the position that you're in the first place and what it looked like inside the game. The thing about this team, no matter what's happened this year, even when we've lost games, they've answered the bell and shown up every night. We just haven't always played great. Even when we won, we haven't played great. But that's part of building your team. But the other night, there's no question that we did not do a great job of blocking out man or zone. And we did not answer the physicality bell, really with Trevor Mbakwe more than anything else. I know there's a lot of, some other guys made plays, but the bottom line is that physicality in the 50-50s. And we didn't do that. When you get 70% of the 50-50 balls, you're going to win pretty much most of your games. And we weren't close to that in that game. But again, we did a lot of good things. It's like I said after Illinois, we're not even remotely talking about any ounce of bouncing back. It's all about how quickly and briskly can we move forward. And this program's not moving at a snail's pace. It's moving at a very fast pace. And that's why I know we have great people. It's one thing to be a really good player. It's another thing to be a great person. And we're full of them. And that's why they're working the way that they're working, and I know they can't wait to play. But with that being said, and being in the stretch run and the home stretch that it is right now, we are going to need an incredibly aggressive, energetic crowd. And we always do. But we've played in some of the toughest arenas lately when you look at Michigan State and when you look at Minnesota. And those were very hostile, aggressive places. Ohio State was like that, and we need our crowd to be like that big time tomorrow night. Really, with 2 games left, we need it every night, but we definitely need it tomorrow night. So we're looking forward to a great home crowd and on a Saturday night playing against what we think is what I've always thought, and I think the players feel the same way, one of the best teams in our league, and has been and will continue to be as long as Fran's there.
When it comes to the rebounding, with this team at this point in the season, is it more just an emphasis in the film room, but you throw a new drill at them? I mean,
no, I don't think it's the drills. I mean, we could have maxed out on drills. It's a little bit technique, it's a little bit more awareness, and then it's a lot more just being the first hitter. You got to have first contact. I mean, it's a physical game, and it really is. It's a very physical game, and I mean, I look at Cody and the free throws that he's shooting. There shouldn't be anybody close to Cody in the country in free throw attempts. Really, there shouldn't be. And when we come back and watch the films, and it just is what it is. I mean, it's a physical league, so you just got to keep working with it. Well, you can always improve your technique. You can always improve your mindset, and when those two go together, then it's that much better. But we've had some great rebounding games. It wasn't like we forgot. We didn't make first contact, and we didn't get the 50-50s.
Tom, how hard is it in game, and I'm sure you were addressing that point, for guys to change, to go from, let's say, level here in intensity or physicality to level here? How hard is it to do that in a game?
Well, I could have used the bench better in the sense of going to the bench earlier than I did. And I think you try to let players play through it, but sometimes that's not the answer. We didn't have a great start. And it was never about the scoreboard at 8-2. It was about the start, because we'd had great preparation. And I mean, again, I Anytime you win, you spend some time looking at what you just did, but when you lose, you put a microscope to it. And there's nothing I can go back and say, hey, I wish we'd have done this better, I wish we'd have done that better. I mean, in preparation-wise, we just didn't get off to a great start. We never established the aggressiveness that we needed to play within that game. But did it get better in the game? Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. There's far more really good clips that we showed them than there are bad clips. It just so happens that the bad clips turned into baskets. And so they're more results oriented. But we had we had energy. You know, those weren't the things. We just weren't as physical as we needed to be.
You've kind of already addressed this, but it seems like after every loss you've kind of talked about the practice after. Always seemed to be, I guess, maybe your most productive, some of your best practices after a loss. Was this one similar? Did you see the same kind of resolve?
Well, I don't know if they've been the best. I mean, last week we beat Michigan State and we had that time off. And in the past, when a young team, your team sometimes really struggles when there's a big break. And we didn't have that at all. I mean, we had some great practices last week. I can still count on one hand, and it's probably one hand. I'm not into the second hand on practices that we'd like to have back. So the resolve all year long has been with them because of the maturity. I mean, they really want to be successful. But there's no question that there's a different tone in the film room. And some of it's positive, and some of it's not so positive. But it's not like it's just all, let's beat people down and browbeat. That's not what it is. I mean, you've got to really go in there and address the issues. But they know. I mean, they know what they are. But it also, you know, it cuts a little deeper when you see it on film. And then when we don't inundate them with numbers. We really don't. Like I told them back when I was younger head coach, I used to kill the numbers with those guys. And that was a lot of times before. That was before Ken Palm and guys like before there was the data that was available. That was pre-Moneyball, and then Moneyball came out, and then it all changed. But we really hit them with the numbers that register. And when you start showing a team, hey, because there's three different ways to look at the sequence of the season. You can look at the whole season, which we rarely do. You can look at the conference season, which we do some. You can look at the last 5 games. And if you want to get it, 7 or 10 or 3 games, you can always do that. But the last 5 games usually tell a story. And we just gave them too many opportunities. So they saw that, they saw it on film, they saw, well, we didn't take advantage of the opportunities that we had in the game. Really, defensively, we did a much better job challenging shots in the game than I thought we did. We didn't do a great job of finding bodies when the shot went up. And so it wasn't like they were missing a bunch of open shots. There were challenge shots. They missed some open shots because we didn't defend at the glass. And we're trying to get this mindset that the next play is when that shot goes up. Because for teams like Minnesota, Michigan State, Iowa is like this. There's no question that sometimes that best offense is when that shot goes up. And they weren't averaging nearly as much from the second shot. And give them credit. I mean, they played at a level they hadn't been playing at. But I think when your back's against the wall like theirs was, and you've got the #1 team in the country coming in, it's always going to juice it up a little bit more. And that's exactly what happened. And I hope they can capitalize on it. But we'll get better. No doubt about that. Our practices aren't the issues at all.
It's one of the quirks of the Big Ten schedule, obviously, but it's a team you haven't played in 14 games, you haven't played in 2 months. How much can you really take from that New Year's Eve game?
We watch that some, but it's a little different now. You have to watch with Mike Gesell in, and we prepare for Mike Gesell. I mean, I've heard that he's out, so I'm sitting on the bench, but you never, until the game starts, I mean, it's just the way that it is. I mean, we don't talk a lot about injuries either, but they're better. They're definitely better, but so are we. And going back to watch that game, there's no question that both teams are significantly better. And Roy Marble is on a roll right now. Last 3 games, he's shooting 50% from 3. Aaron White is playing tremendous. And Aaron White is one of the best forwards in America, let alone the Big Ten. They're deep. They're really deep. Even without Gesell, they're deep. And Marble's at a high rate. Oglesby, is fearless. And I mean, we can go right down the line. McCabe's a vet, and Woodbury's playing well. I mean, they're a really good team. So they're better, and they're doing a lot of different things. They're a hard preparation because they'll run their sets, they'll run their motion. They're extremely good in the break. I think they have very little respect for our transition defense, and our guys have got to understand that. They want to run on us, and we want to run on them. So we've got to do a great job. We're very even in the foul line. department right now in the league, and they're really good. And they're a great example of this league gets a lot of credit, and rightfully so, but sometimes some of the teams don't get enough credit nationally, and they're one of them. They're definitely one of them.
How are they different with Gazelle not playing?
They've only played one game now without him, and Marble's doing an awful lot. The ball's in his hands probably more now, with running the offense, but that doesn't mean that's, they've had a couple days to get used to it too. I don't know how long they practiced without Gazelle, but he's an excellent shooter. Great guy in the pick and roll, especially with the rescreen. They do a ton with the rescreens, and but they're very balanced. They can throw a lot of different lineups. This is going to be the biggest lineup we will have seen. Even bigger than Minnesota's, really, I think. When you look at the point position and things. So, but they got to match up with us too. So it's just one of those things. They're really, really good. And difference-wise, I don't know if I could say there's a big difference because Gazelle was scoring 2. He was the 3rd leading scorer. It's just now they have the leading scorer at the point.
You mentioned the size, I guess. They weren't playing that big when the season started. Marble was more of a small forward.
Yeah.
They were already getting bigger before Gazelle got hurt. How are they different just playing bigger when they have a...
Wasabi's playing really well,
forward?
and he's played well against Indiana, but he's playing really well. And White is just a tough matchup all the way around. White's in Cody's league athletically. There's no question. And with the way he runs, he gets out and plays, and he's really good. But he has been. He was good last year too. But they just keep getting better. But they cause issues because of that size and because White can play away from the rim so well. And Eric May is a senior that's playing like a senior, and he's shooting a high level from 3. He doesn't take a lot of threes. He's one of the better athletes in our league. He's been through it. So they're a deep team. I don't have any doubt they're an NCAA tournament team.
I was just going to, in a press conference today, McCaffrey said that Gazelle won't be playing to the Big Ten tournament. What that's worth.
Yeah, I saw that too. I believe him, but is what it is. He's on the films. So I'm not saying I don't trust him.
No.
I don't mean it like that at all. But we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't prepare. So.
In terms of just the kind of length comparison, can you almost draw back to Georgetown for a game like this? Is this sort of the biggest lineup you've seen since then?
Different team. That's a good call though. Otto Porter's done all right, hasn't he? Yeah, he's a little bit like that, but because Whittington was such a hard matchup. But again, they had to match up with us too. But again, we could see so many different things from Iowa. They play their 1-2-2 / 3-2 zone. They play their 2-3. They press. They zone press. Like I said, they do so many different things with their offense. So you really have to know personnel in this game. You do with everybody in the league, and that's one area that our guys have grown exponentially this year is really understanding personnel and what we're trying to take away from each individual player. And I think that just comes with the maturity of a team and having a better understanding of the league all the time. But they can do a lot of things. So we'll see. We may have to match up with them sometimes.
I haven't really had a chance to ask you about the academic All-American thing, but you just talk about the balance that your guys obviously do very well.
Well, I had no idea until we learned that we hadn't had one at Indiana since 1999. That just goes to show, because there have been some great students at Indiana. It just goes to show how hard a task that is to make that. And to have 2 guys make it is incredible. And we had some other guys that probably just missed that cutoff, whatever it is. Victor was extremely close academically to that. So I think it says a lot about the way they were raised. I think it says a lot about the way they value, long before they got to Indiana, being student athletes, being people that really did well academically. But I think it says a lot about the support that they have here, the system that's in place at Indiana University, the educational value, and the fact that it's one thing to go to class, it's one thing to get good grades, it's another thing to want to get them. And we've got a team of guys that want to get them. It's competitive. And we saw that this past summer with most of the freshmen. It's competitive. And not competitive in the sense that it's being created that way by the system. It's being created that way by them. They're competitors. And I think when you look at what Cody and Jordan have done over their careers here, one long, one short, and at the same time what they mean to the program on a daily basis, you can't really quantify it. And I think that's another great example of just how impressive those two have been since they've been at Indiana. But Marnie Mooney deserves incredible credit. The system, the tutors, they get no credit that work with them, and those guys would do fine without that, but everybody has access to that. But I think those two young guys and their families and the way they've been raised deserve the bulk of the credit more than anybody else.
Second game in a row against a team trying to make the NCAA, kind of in that bubble talks, that urgency bring about a little bit different level this late in the year?
I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't bring a different level of urgency. I mean, I would think we're past
Their
that.
opponent, yeah.
Oh, they know how good Iowa is. Yeah, I mean, it's always a balancing act with your team when they get to this point. They have to keep remembering just how hard this league is, and I think they do. I think they do, and they've never been. This team has never been. I watch some teams sometimes, you know, in different leagues. I mean, they're just kind of there. Our team has never just been there. I mean, they've never done that. And we haven't always played great, like I said earlier, but they don't just show up. So we don't have anybody that has that kind of mindset. But you just have to understand how good these teams are, not just what they're fighting for, but how well coached they are and how talented they are. And I think our guys, they understand that about Iowa.